Hmm. Good morning. I have a confession to make. It says 4:44 on that clock, but until about 45 minutes ago, I did not even realize that today is a 23-hour day. Daylight savings time started last night, and no, I haven't reset that clock, so it's 5:44 by my computer, which that changes automatically. But the one up there requires manual manipulation. And I didn't do that. I didn't even think of it. I didn't even realize it. I thought it was the end of March when daylight savings time began, not in the middle. And then now, of course, I remember that a few years back they they extended it a couple of weeks on either end, as I recall. I don't remember the detail, but anyway, I am not really starting at 4:44 today, even though that's what the clock says. 23-hour days and 25-hour days throw you. I don't know if they do that in the rest of the world, but they certainly do it here in the United States. All of that about daylight savings time. Today's title is 2012 Living in a Material World. It was a strange series of dreams I had prior to fully awakening this morning. I don't even remember much of the detail except these words. Don't let them take your car. Of course, for me and many in modern society, the car is a symbol of freedom. As I meditated on this, I realized that there is another polarization that I hadn't noticed or even considered previously. Materialists and anti-materialists. Now let me say about the dream, that is sort of a recurring dream where I come out of a store or any place and I go to where I thought I had parked my car and it's not there. I've got the keys in my hand and I go to what I thought I left my car and it's not there. I mean, I've had that dream numerous times throughout my life. And there have been times in actual waking life where I've parked in a large parking lot and couldn't remember exactly where it was. Uh, Usually I find it in a relatively short time, but it has happened that I thought I was in one row and was actually in another row, or sometimes where I normally parked in a certain place and didn't park there this time, and I went to the normal place. Anyway, perhaps you've had that experience. I remember with uh, a year ago, I guess it was, or what was it? Over a year ago. I went with Margie to Busch Gardens, my friend Margie, and I went together to enjoy an amusement park, and she drove. And when we came out, I mean, it took us a half an hour to find her car. And I mean, I wasn't the driver, so I didn't remember exactly, but where we thought it wasn't, we had it totally mixed up in the huge parking lot. Anyway, don't let them take your car. Don't let them take your freedom. But when I went into the meditation room, and I was in there longer today than normal. Actually, if I hadn't stayed in there so long, when I came to the computer, I would have noticed that the time had been altered, and I would have been able to start. But as it was, I came out of the meditation room to the computer, and it was already 7 or 8 minutes past 4:44, according to daylight savings time. So in the meditation room, I was pondering this, and what was coming to me was a lot of things, as happens pretty much every day. But in Gnosticism, and there's a lot of people in the spiritual world that look upon physicality as evil. That's why there's the war on sexuality, because physical stuff is just simply not good. It's the war on the feminine, the mater, material. Uh, it's the war on the receptive and the experience that we are able to have in physicality. Now, I have studied or read about certain jinn or spirit beings that resent people being able to have physical experiences. They don't have the emotional capabilities and everything else that comes along with physicality. And so they look at it as a curse, and they curse those of us that are in physicality. This is part of, again, the polarization between the material world and the non-material world, or the immaterial world. And of course, when I chose the title, I immediately thought of Madonna, because wasn't she the one that sang "Living in a Material World," or "I'm a Material Girl," or something? Living in a material world. I don't remember. I'm not really into that kind of. I'm not into Madonna. Let's put it that way. But this is something that I think we have to deal with in 2012. Many of us have been given the idea that everything in the material world is Maya, illusion, and we've labeled it with a negative label and made it and virtually invalidated the experience of being physical. And there's been times, quite honestly, that I have even said, "Stop the world, I want to get off." I mean, I've had enough of this, the trials and tribulations of living in a physical world. But as I was looking at this morning in the meditation room, I realized it's not the material world that's the problem. Just like it's not money or government or anything else that so many, quote, spiritual people rail against and push against and say, "I don't want that, that's not necessary." And you're right, it's not necessary. But it's the experience we have co-created together. And the problem is not the material world. The problem is not the lower densities that allows us to have physical sensation and physical bodies. That's not the problem. The problem is not accepting it. Don't let them take your freedom to have the physical experience. Yes, they're symbols. They're symbols of freedom to explore the heights and the depths, to explore everything that life has to offer. And it offers us material reality as a gift. And we have taken that gift, many people have taken that gift and abused it. Some people become total materialists. All they think about, this is the elite, right? All they think about is acquiring, an endless acquisition of material things. And they forget the spiritual. And spiritual people look at them and think, "Oh, how pitiful." But it's equally pitiful for spiritual people who detest the material world and abhor it and live looking down their nose at everybody that's material, as if the material stuff is in and of itself evil, as the money, for example, in and of itself is evil. There is nothing evil about money. It's the system and the attitudes that we have in regard to this medium of exchange, this symbol, that is the evil. Some would look at the car as being evil because it operates on internal combustion engines burning oil, okay? Burning gasoline, petrol. And that pollutes the world, so it's evil. Well, an automobile, a car, can run on totally clean. There's electric cars and solar powered and hydrogen powered and other types of of modes of transportation that we haven't even thought of. And when I hear the words, don't let them take your car, don't let them take your freedom to experience, I'm realizing that that's what's happening in our world. There's a war waged by some and in us all, a war against this material life, against the experience of being in the flesh, where everything is ultimately a symbol, because ultimately it's all energy, and energy is spirit. It's all immaterial being made material. That's the gift of creation. It's not something to be denigrated or invalidated or abhorred. It's something to be appreciated and to be grateful for it and thankful that we have this experience, that we live in a world that we can touch each other and see things and hear things. And I don't know how much sensory perception there is in the non-material or spiritual world. I'm not sure. They say they don't use words. Well, does that mean there's no sound? I don't know the answer to these questions. I don't remember anyway what it's like. But I know that as long as I'm here in this body, the greatest gift that I can give to the experience is to appreciate it and to be thankful even for the symbols of freedom, like my car. Now, I talk to my car. My car has done miraculous things. It treats me really, really well. But I often just caress the steering wheel or even touch other parts, usually the steering wheel, because that's the part that my hands normally go to. But I actually caress it and say thank you. And I'm thinking of all the systems that work together to make the automobile a pleasant experience. Now, I've had some challenging experiences with it, but not very many throughout my life. Not very many times have I experienced breakdown or something like that. And always I've been able to find my car. I've never lost it, although I've misplaced where I parked on numerous occasions, especially in dreams. But I cherish my home. I cherish the appliances that serve me, the plumbing, the electrical system, all of the various systems that work together. And I do the same thing with my body. I cherish my circulation and my respiratory and my sexual functioning. And I cherish the whole thing because this is a gift that I have participated in the creation of. I have helped co-create this thing. It's a gift to me. And I'm encouraging each of you to look at the material world not as something to be abhorred or escaped from, but something to be embraced and appreciated and cherished. When was the last time you told your body you loved it? When was the last time you told your car how much you appreciated it? Or told your house how grateful you were for the shelter it gives you and the pleasure of all of the appliances and all of the technology that we have in this physical world? It's not an evil thing, folks. We only make it evil by thinking of it that way. I encourage you on this first day of daylight savings time in the United States, and I don't know how many other countries celebrate that, but I encourage you to use this day to be grateful, to be thankful for the gifts that we have that we so often take for granted. And I'm going to leave you with that today. I think it's an interesting topic, and it's something that I would have never thought that I would be approaching were it not for that strange series of dreams that I had last night, most of which I can't remember. I know I woke up 3 or 4 times, looked at the clock, and then fell back to sleep and went into another dream. Anyway, have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening. Namaste.